Hi guys, welcome to Full Time Devils. It's me, Jay, with your daily transfer update. Now, the big news coming from United today, or about United today, I should say, is news that Real Madrid are prepared to sell 6 players to fund a bid for Paul Pogba. Now, we know that United were playing hardball for Paul Pogba. They weren't prepared to let him go for anything less than. I think we were looking at 150 million. I think that was the price that was being mooted. Now, apparently, Real Madrid are looking to fund that. They're looking to sell 6 players. They're looking at getting rid of Isco, James Rodriguez, Gareth Bale, Keylor Navas, the goalkeeper, Lucas Vazquez and Mariano Diaz. And they reckon if they can get rid of all those players, they'll be able to fund a bid for Paul Pogba. Now, is that going to happen? We'll have to wait and see. United apparently want around 200 million. And if Real Madrid manage to sell those players, they'll get around 180 million quid for him, which will be enough to get the deal done. If United are asking for sort of 200 million, 180 million is probably around the figure that would do it. Although I think United will take a little bit less, actually. I think United would probably take 150 million or just over 150 million for Paul Pogba. But we know that Zinedine Zidane is a massive fan of Paul Pogba. We know that Paul Pogba obviously wants to leave United. He's a big fan of Zidane. He'd like a move to Madrid. So it's possible that this could happen. We know that Madrid have so many players, including the 6 that I've mentioned, that they've got on the books that they could get rid of. So it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility that they got rid of 5 or 6 players, raised the cash that they needed, and then came in for a bid for Paul Pogba that United were willing to listen to. So it's one to keep an eye on. It's what the Mirror are reporting. We don't know if Real Madrid are going to be able to get rid of all the players they need to. We don't know if they're going to be able to match United's valuation, but we know that the player wants to go. We know that Real Madrid are interested in him. The problem they've got, obviously, at Madrid is they've spent a lot of money this summer. They've brought in a lot of players, least of all Eden Hazard and several others as well. They've spent, I think, around 300 million already, so they need to sell a few players to be able to fund a purchase for Paul Pogba. So we'll see whether that has got any legs. It does kind of make sense because you know that they want him and he can go for that sort of money, but whether you can get rid of 6 players that quickly and get the deal done in the transfer window, I don't know. I'm not so sure, but that's the latest suggestion coming from the Mirror. Another story about United that's broke this today is that United are looking at alternatives to Harry Maguire. Apparently, they're looking at Fiorentina's Nikola Milenkovic. Now, we saw this when United were in for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. If you remember that when the deal was looking like it was dragging on a little bit, there was rumours that we were in for, I think it was the lad at Norwich City, Max Aaron's the fullback there, as an alternative. So it's no surprise here that all of a sudden, with the Maguire deal looking like it could drag on a little bit, whether Leicester are asking too much money, alternatives are suddenly suggested. Now, whether that's paper talk, whether that's United trying to make Leicester think, if we don't take the 75 million or the 80 million or whatever it is that United are willing to pay, we won't get anything for him. I don't know. But in terms of Milenkovic, he is a good player. He's a talented defender. He's tall, he's Serbian, so he's obviously going to get comparisons with Nemanja Vidic. He's had a very good season at Fiorentina, but they've not had a great season. I think they finished about 16th in Serie A, but that doesn't mean a lot because we know from experience, that the likes of Virgil van Dijk, I don't want to keep going on about him, but I mentioned him quite a lot as an example of someone who played in a team that wasn't doing particularly well, but he was playing well in it. And obviously, when he went to Liverpool, he shone. You saw the likes of Harry Maguire and Andy Robertson as well at Hull City. I think they got relegated. So just because you're in a team that isn't doing so well doesn't mean that you're not a good player. At 21, he's quite a young defender, obviously. He's a young player. Now, I've always said, and most of us have said, great, buying in young players makes a lot of sense. But the one area I think where we might need a bit of experience is a centre-back alongside Victor Lindelof. I think that's the one area where perhaps I wouldn't want to buy an unproven youngster. Now, I know De Ligt is 19 and everyone was more than happy for him to come to Old Trafford, but he's a bit of an exception to it. He's someone who's just an old head on young shoulders and has already achieved quite a lot in the game. He won the double with Ajax, got to the Champions League semi-final, and has obviously played very well for Holland as well. So I don't know if this is the right answer. I don't know if this is going to happen. I don't know if it's just again, paper talk to force Leicester's hand, or just United are looking at a few other options, but Maguire remains the main focus. I wouldn't be against someone like Milenkovic coming to United, but I would prefer Harry Maguire. I know Harry Maguire costs a lot more, but I do think we need experience. We need someone who can definitely lead that defence. And with Milenkovic, I just feel it's a little bit of a gamble. We don't know if he's going to take a little while to settle into the Premier League. It might, take him 2 or 3 seasons, and I don't know if we've got that with our defence as it is at the minute. I think if we get one centre-back in who's got experience, who can lead, I think we'll be set, because I think a back four, Victor Lindelof, and a strong centre-back with him, also Luke Shaw and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, that looks like a pretty good, solid base for the team for me. So, again, it might just be paper talk, it might just be United trying to not force Leicester's hand, but just make Leicester think, okay, this isn't all we're looking at, so if you don't let us have Maguire for 75 or 80 million or whatever, then we can go somewhere else. But Milenkovic is on our radar, talented player. I'm not sure if we need 21-year-olds who haven't played in the Premier League, I should say. Speaking of Serbians, another player we've been linked with is Lazio's Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. Now, this has been going on for quite a while, but it's only recently that it's come to the forefront, because I remember about a year ago I was lucky enough to spend some time with former United player Bojan Djordjic, and he was raving about Milinkovic-Savic. He was saying he's just what United need, he'd be perfect in our midfield, he's got everything, he can win the ball, he can carry the ball, he'd be ideal, and he'd shine in the Premier League as well. So I kept an eye on him in the World Cup, and if I'm being honest, I was a little bit underwhelmed. I didn't think he was that great, but I trust Bojan Djordjic. He's watched a lot of the player. I've seen his record at Lazio. He's had a good season at Lazio. Again, not a fantastic season in the league. I think they finished about 8th, but they won the Coppa Italia. So he's obviously, he's had some success, and he is the type of player you want. He's a sort of an almost all-round midfielder, if you will. He can win the ball, he can pass, he can get stuck in, he can carry the ball. And maybe that's what we're lacking a little bit of, because we've got Paul Pogba who can do the attacking side of things. We've got the likes of McTominay and Matic, who are perhaps a little bit more defensive. So maybe someone like a Milinkovic-Savic could be the ideal midfielder. At 24, he's not very young. He's getting experience. He's sort of approaching his best years, if you will. But I always feel with midfielders, when they get to sort of the mid-20s, the late 20s, that's when they really start to kick on. Some of the best midfielders for United, at the age of 23, 24, they were fantastic. The likes of Roy Keane, the likes of Michael Carrick, the likes of Brian Robson. But when they got to sort of 27, 28, they reached an even higher level, a level that you didn't expect. I'm not saying that he will be as good as one of those players. I'm just saying I think with midfielders, especially all-round midfielders, mid-20s and late 20s, we really see them shine. So that is a deal that I think we'd all be happy to see. The money being touted around for that one is around, I think, £71 million, which, okay, it's a lot of money, but it makes a lot of sense. For a top-class midfielder who's still got plenty of years left under his belt, years left in the tank, played at the highest level, has won trophies, international experience, 71 million quid. That's the going rate nowadays. That's what you're looking at paying. And I think if United are looking for someone who can come in and he's ready, who can hit the ground running, then you're going to be paying upwards of 60 million. So United are apparently preparing a bid for him for £71 million. That makes a lot of sense to me, and I think that could be a player and someone who, from what I've been told from people who've watched him a lot, he could be a real asset to United, and he could be someone that carries the team forward and sort of fills that role that we haven't got filled at the minute. Regardless of whether Paul Pogba goes or stays, we need someone who's a bit of an all-rounder, and I don't think we've really got that. I think we've got the sort of the attacking midfielders and the defensive midfielders. We're perhaps lacking that all-rounder, and that could be Milinkovic-Savic. So, and another one to keep an eye on, another one that's been linked with United on and off for about a year now, but the last few weeks it seemed to gather a lot of momentum. Would he be happy to come to Old Trafford? I don't know, remains to be seen, but Champions League football may not be his priority, and if United can offer him a decent deal, then that's one you would expect United to be able to get over the line, to be able to do. It's just a question of whether we're prepared, to pay the 71 million that apparently Lazio are after. In terms of players leaving, there's one that's sort of been all over the papers this morning, yesterday, was Romelu Lukaku. Now, there was stories this morning that he hadn't trained with United, or he wasn't in the open training session, and that a deal for Inter Milan was almost done. We know that Inter came in with a bid. I think they were looking to do a staggered deal where they paid sort of so much over the first year, so much over the second year with a sort of a view to making the deal permanent, or a stipulation that they had to make the deal permanent so that United would get around 60, 70 million, but staggered over 3 seasons. Now, whether United are willing to accept that, I'm not so sure. We know that United tried to do something similar, although not to that much of an extent, with Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace said no. They wanted the brunt of the money up front, and United ended up doing it. Are United going to say something similar to Inter Milan, or will United think, we know what, he doesn't want to be here. At the end of the day, we're going to get our money that we want for him. We're just going to have to stagger it a little bit. Let's make it happen. Personally, I think United should dig the reels in. I think United want... They know that United know that Inter wants him. They know that Conte is a massive fan. No matter what you think of Romelu Lukaku, he scores goals, he scored a lot of goals, and I'm pretty positive if he can score a lot of goals in the Premier League, he can score a lot of goals in Serie A. He's still only in his mid-20s, he's still a young player. There's resale value in him for them if they wanted next season or the season after to sell him on. So I think United should be saying we want that deal made, but we want the money up front. We don't want to wait 2 years until we get the rest of it, or do it in some sort of loan deal. I think that we should be asking for the money up front, or for most of it up front, and maybe, you know, take 50 million now, 20 million a little bit later or whatever. I think the problem is the player wants to go, Inter want him, and there might be this thing of, oh, well, he wants to leave. If we just get this sort of deal done, then we can look at bringing in someone else. But I think that'd be foolish for Manchester United. We've seen the way that Crystal Palace handled it with us, and they got what they want. Now we're the selling club. I think we need to dig our heels in a little bit and not just say, oh, right, let's just get him off the books. Let's just get rid of him. I don't think that's the answer at all. I'm just gonna have a look at some of the comments here. Maybe plus cash. I think, yeah, people are talking about, is there a player deal to be done for some of these players, especially with Pogba as well. Real Madrid want to sell all these players, the likes of Rodriguez, Bale, Navas, and okay, we don't need a goalkeeper, Mariano Diaz. Can we not get one of those players and some cash for Pogba? These aren't really players that we want, though, and I don't think we should be taking players that we weren't interested in just to help Paul Pogba move to Real Madrid. I think we should be saying, right, okay, we want the money that we expect for Paul Pogba. He's a huge talent. He's a player that's going to get better and better. He's still only, I think, 26, so he's still not at his peak. Commercially, he's going to bring in a lot of money for whichever club he goes to. So I don't think we should be looking at sort of taking players that we weren't interested in and money. I think we should say, like we should with Lukaku, no, this is the deal we want. If you want him, you have to stump up the cash. We know Real Madrid have got players they can get rid of. We know Real Madrid have spent a lot of money this summer. So if they're willing to pay 100 million for Eden Hazard, then they should be willing to go that little bit extra for Paul Pogba, who we know as well, Zinedine Zidane is a massive fan of. So why not? Someone here saying Matic and Lukaku for Skriniar. Don't know about that one, maybe. Someone else is saying Isco at 100 million. I've said this before, I'm not a big fan of Isco. I know a lot of people do rate him, and I know he is a talented player. But I don't know for me. I just think he's a little bit inconsistent. I don't know if he's the answer. I just think that if we took 100 million and Isco, that's basically saying we value Isco at what, 70, 80 million? Is he worth that? Probably in today's market he is, but I still think it's a big gamble. Personally, I'd rather take 180 million and no Isco, than 100 million and Isco. But we'll have to see what happens with that one. Isco was never really on our radar, so again, I don't see why Ole should say, I'll tell you what, give us Isco on 100 million. He's not the player that we were after, so I think we should take the money, the full amount of money that we want, and then go out and buy the players that we want. Someone else is saying, Bale, I've said all along, I'd take Gareth Bale at United on a loan deal. I think if there was a deal where we could say, okay, we'll have him on loan for the season, and if he gets injured, you can have him back, then maybe that would work. I think the problem with Bale is his wages are astronomical. I think they're around the £500,000 mark, and a lot of people look at that and it screams Alexis Sanchez to everyone. They're like, oh, you know, we'd end up in another Alexis Sanchez situation. So I get where people are coming from in that one, where it's like, do we really want another player who's coming to the end of his career and who also has had his injury problems and is on massive money? I'm not so sure. I just think if we can get Bale for a loan deal where we don't have to pay money if he gets injured, then I think he could do a job for us. I think he could do. If he plays sort of 30 games next season and scores a lot of goals and gets a lot of assists, I don't think that's a bad deal. But if Real Madrid was sort of looking for us to pay for him or to buy him on anything remotely like a long-term deal, then I think that would be a massive gamble and one not worth taking. We've seen the problems we've had with Alexis Sanchez, where not only has he not been performing, but now we're in a situation where we can't really get rid of him. So I don't really think we will end up with like that with Bale, so I don't see that happening. Someone saying Pogba cash would only be around 130 to 140 million. The problem with that is, while that is a lot of money, and you think, okay, that's profit on him, we got him for what, 89 million, we make a lot of money. When you look at the fact that Barcelona paid what, 145 million for Felipe Coutinho, in today's market, is Pogba not worth a little bit? If not, is Pogba not worth a little bit more? I think he is, and I think for a player like that, a World Cup winner, one of the most sort of easily recognisable names in world football, one of the most talented midfielders on the planet, I think in this day and age and in this sort of the market we live in, I think you're looking at 150 million, upwards of 150 million. So I think if we let him go for less than that, I think it would be a bit of a shame, to be honest with you. I think we would have had our pants pulled down slightly, and I think we should be aiming for the top end. I think he should be more or less a world record transfer fee for someone like Pogba, because you look at the way modern football is, it's not just about how well they perform, it's about how much money they bring in. We know that Pogba is a sort of player that he sells shirts, he attracts fans. We have the old Pogba FC shenanigans that go on. He's that sort of player, and that's the world we live in. So I think taking anything less than 150 million would be slightly undervaluing him. I'm gonna leave it there, guys. Listen, we've got Adam Nikola over in Australia. He should be landing any time now, so don't forget to check out Full-Time Devils. He'll be giving you the transfer daily updates. He'll be over in Perth. He'll be giving you all the fan cams and the vlogs and all the rest of it. If you've not, you can join our WhatsApp group. We'll be giving you updates on there. And don't forget, obviously, to subscribe to the channel. Check us out on Instagram and on Twitter as well. And thanks for watching.